What is up, everybody? Alessandro here from Tony'sPicks.com. Going to break down these Oregon Ducks finally. Been trying to get to it here. It's been a pretty long breakdown here of this team. Bunch of new kids there. Not a lot of faces I recognize. Some talented names and some highly touted names. So that's interesting. But yeah, they lost 10 kids in the draft this past year. Obviously Oregon had a great year last year, 13-1, made it all the way to the Rose Bowl. Did lose to Ohio State, the defending champs here, Ohio State. But, a lot of expectations again here for Dan Lanning. He's pulled in some pretty nice recruiting classes, top 3 and top 4 these last 2 years. I did allude to it earlier. 17 kids have been drafted in the past 2 years. So, a lot of new faces littered throughout this Oregon roster. But, let's break it down here. We'll start with the kicker. They're going to have an Oregon State kid, former transfer at least, Atticus Sappington. He, at his 2 years at Oregon State, 18 for 21, 48-yarder as his longest. Last year with Oregon, 14 for 16, long of 42. He is 0 for 1 in kicks over 50 yards in his career, so they barely even attempt. Basically a short yardage field goal kicker here. Don't really trust him anything past 50 yards, as you guys see with the numbers. 0 for 1. The punter here, James Ross, a former transfer from community college. His first year at Oregon as a sophomore set the school record for most yards per punt. Last year as a junior, third in the history of the school as far as yards per punt. So, one of the more decorated punters Oregon has had. He's on the Ray Guy Award watch list here. James Ross, senior, looking out here for this punter. Give Oregon some good field position, some elite special teams and punt returns that they have. Kick returns, they're always going to be known for speed. You guys know this with Oregon. But as far as up front, only one returning offensive lineman here. We're seeing this junior center, Iapani Lalulu, freshman All-American he was, sophomore last year, all Big Ten. Big kid, 6'3", 330 pounds. Moves pretty agile. He's on the Remington Award watch list, supposed to be drafted as well. So, they're pretty hyped about this center. He's going to be the leader on this offensive line for sure. But, they're welcoming 3 transfers, 2 from the Sun Belt, 2 from the Mountain West, 1 from the Sun Belt. So, 3 kids brand new on this offensive line. Not a lot of continuity. There is a lot of talent, though. One of the transfers is going to be at left tackle, Isaiah World. Like that name, Isaiah World, left tackle. This kid's from Nevada, 6'8", 312 pounds, big mauler. This kid's 2-time All-Mountain West, big deal there. Showing a lot of skill at 6'8", 312, a lot of bend in the hips, actually. So they're excited about what he's going to bring there. Hopefully a big-time run game mauler there for them, run right behind him. 6'8", 312, can't get mad at that. Right guard, they're going to have the redshirt senior Matthew Bedford, 6'6", 315, 38 college career starts, Did play at Indiana, not that big of a school there that I'm excited about. They did have a great year last year, obviously, but I don't know, not too excited about Indiana going forward, especially this year. But, 6'6", 315, this kid is pretty experienced. He's had to have 2 medical red shirts. He's going into his 6th year here. So we'll see how that goes for him. But, 38 starts, a lot of experience in college football, the right guard spot. At the left guard here, they got the graduate transfer from USC, former All-Mountain West kid as well, played a little bit at Wyoming and at USC, 25 career starts in college. First year here with Oregon, this kid, Emmanuel Pregnon, 6'4", 330, another big mauler there on the inside. Again, a lot of new faces you'll see up front here for Oregon. Don't know how I necessarily feel about that. We do like to fade those new offensive lines here that lack the continuity. But a lot of talent, at least, At the right tackle spot, they'll have the redshirt senior transfer from Texas State. All Sun Belt kid there, made 12 starts last year. 6'6", 325. I did not get his name. I apologize. Brandon something, I know. That's his name. Right tackle here. Good sized kid, 6'6", 325. I know he was highly touted coming out, this kid here. Just had to go to Texas State, transfer there. Did spend a little bit of time at Colorado. But yeah, no, bunch of new faces on this offensive line. I've already alluded to. We're going to see how this works out here for Oregon. They do have a hot shot there, a quarterback here. Dante Moore is going to be the expected starter. This kid was a 5-star coming out, expected to play early, and he did at UCLA. Not the greatest of numbers. He played 9 games as a freshman at UCLA. 114 completions, 213 attempts, 54% completion percentage. Not the greatest, 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in his freshman year. Expecting a big step forward for him, a lot more talent I'm expecting to be around him here at Oregon. Obviously, a lot better coaching there. Dan Lanning's going to get him right. Nice little system they have. Backing him up, though, they're going to have Austin Novosad. I saw a little bit of this kid play last year. He may push a little bit for the starting role if Dante Moore doesn't come in and develop. But, the redshirt sophomore, 6'3", 205. I like a lot of what I've seen out of this Austin Novosad. Nice little veteran to have in the as a backup there. But the kid that they're all excited about here is this Akili Smith Jr. Obviously, you recognize that name. His dad's Akili Smith Sr., former Oregon standout himself. First-round draft pick with the Bengals. Obviously, it didn't work out. A lot of people like to call him a bust. Just Bengals back then were an atrocious franchise. Still kind of are, if you ask me. But, Akili Smith Jr. is a lot bigger than his dad, too. 6'5", 6'6", 210 pounds. His dad was more of a 6'2", 6'3" type quarterback. They're excited about what this Akili Smith kid has to bring. 4-star out of San Diego. Don't know if he's going to start right away, but a developmental piece for Dan Lanning to work with is not too shabby there. Akili Smith Jr. At running back, they got this 5'11", 215-pound kid, Mekhi Hughes. Big time transfer from Tulane. It's crazy you saying that, transfer from Tulane. Big time, but this kid put some numbers up there, man. 2,779 yards in those 2 seasons, almost 1,400 yards a year, 25 touchdowns in those 2 seasons, 5.3 yards a carry. This guy, 4.4 speed, 215 pounds, number 3 on the big board in the NFL draft. They're expecting big things out of this Mekhi Hughes. I'm expecting him to be the bell cow of this Oregon offense. They like to spread people out, run that spread read option. I'm expecting him to be the main culprit of that. A big year I'm expecting out of him. Then they have this kid, Noah Whittington, senior running back, 5'8", 200. Another 4'4" kid. 3 seasons at Oregon, over 1,400 yards rushing on 277 carries, 13 touchdowns. He himself, 5.28 yards per carry, former Western Kentucky transfer. This kid's going on into his 6th year as well. Had to take a medical red shirt there in 2023. But last year, 600-something yards rushing, 700 yards rushing. So, I'm expecting him to look good. A nice little 1-2 punch Oregon will have there in the backfield. Can't complain. Like I said, this read option attack is really what I see Oregon getting to here. A lot of Dante Moore, Dak Prescott comparisons. That Mississippi State quarterback run scheme they had, I can see that kind of being something similar here at Oregon. They're going to try to run that read option, like I've said. I'm excited to see what they have to bring. There's a lot of Heisman talk here with Dante Moore. He has a little bit of talent surrounding him. These skill positions here, these wide receivers and tight ends, are pretty impressive. A lot of new faces, but a lot of talent. This kid here at wide receiver, Kyle Casper, 6'6", 210, 4-star kid out of Arizona. Like I said, 6'6", 210, playing wide receiver. This kid's a former basketball player, breakout year he's looking for here. Last year got hurt. He only had five receptions on his first 3 years on campus here. Had to take the medical red shirt last year. Like I said, got hurt. But they're expecting big things out of this Kyle Casper kid. 6'6", 210, go up and get it. Basketball player, like I've said. And then, in the slot, they're going to have this kid, Gary Bryant Jr., 5'10", 200 pounds. Kind of like that Tyreek Hill, quick twitch type guy there in the slot. Get open on those slants and bubble screens, out routes, and nice little security blanket there in the middle of the field for Dante Moore to hit. I like this kid, Gary Bryant Jr. there. Nice little slot guy, punt return guy as well. Former transfer from USC. It's always nice when you can steal some kids there from USC if you're Oregon. But the kid that they're most pumped about here at wide receiver is this 5-star, DeCorian Moore. I've already alluded to the quarterback he played with there, Keelan Russell at Duncanville. These kids lit it up, man, in the state of Texas. These kids, I call them 6 stars. They're, day one starter type talent, first round draft pick type talent. Consensus number one wide receiver in this year's this year's recruiting class, DeCorian Moore. Expect 1,000 yards and 10 scores from him immediately as a freshman. He's going to play right away, or he'll find his way, in another college campus here, maybe even Alabama, where Keelan Russell went. Nice little duo they could be. But for right now, he's at Oregon, and I expect him to get the ball plenty, maybe even some punt return. This kid's got 4.28, 4.35 speed, 5'11", 200 pounds. He's a burner. I'm excited to see what DeCorian Moore does there in college football. Freshman All-American for sure. Everything, you can name it. Excited for him. At tight end, they're going to welcome this kid, Kenyon Sadiq. 6'3", 245, only 25 receptions his first 2 years on campus. 2 touchdowns. Has a couple rushing attempts as well. I see them using as a tight end reverse, little H-back series they have with him. Kenyon Sadiq, 6'3", 245, not bad to have. True tight end, though, that they have, Jamari Johnson, 6'5", 250. Sophomore transfer there, redshirted last year after he transferred from Louisville. Played in 7 games at Louisville before getting hurt as well. 13 receptions, 158 yards, 1 touchdown. Not a lot of action seen in college so far. But at 6'5", 250, you like that size and that frame there at tight end. The kid they're most excited about, again, they got another good weapon here. Vander Plug, 6'6", 225, another basketball standout here. This kid's a 3-sport athlete. Actually played baseball as well, throw 95 miles per hour. Could have went and played baseball here at Oregon. Still thinking about it. This kid's a stud, man. 4-star prospect out of high school. He could kind of play anywhere he wants. He could play basketball. He could play baseball. 6'6", pitcher. Tight end here, 6'6", 225. This is a very, very intriguing prospect here. Vander Plug. I'm expecting this kid, to make a big, big splash here right away, too, as a freshman. I see Dan Lanning finding, a spot for him to play real soon. 6'6", 225. He can go up and get it. That's going to be exciting. So, I think, Dante Moore is going to have a nice, first solid year there with Oregon with tons of weapons around him. Not a lot of continuity up front, but a lot of talent. And I do see, Dan Lanning coaching these boys up. Once we get into this schedule, I'll break it down. It's not the most insane schedule as well. I can see them having some success this year for sure. But let's get to this defense, man. Oregon's defense, they're known for that 4-2-5. A lot of teams are running it, that nickel scheme. 5 D-backs on the field. A lot of teams nowadays are passing. They want as much speed on the field as well with these mobile quarterbacks. So, I like that as well. Last year, they were ranked 19th in scoring, only gave up 19 points per game. So, one of the elite defenses in the country. But, we already alluded to it. Lost a lot of kids in the draft these past 2 years. So, there'll be a lot of new faces. But one of the returning faces they'll have, is that kid on the edge, Junior Matalia Ugalele. I can't even say. Oh, my God. I'm going to murder this kid's name. Matayo Ugalele. This is the kid, DJ Ugalele's brother right here. 6'5", 270-pound kid out of St. John Bosco High School. That's a serious program. Elite 5-star coming out of high school, and he's lived up to all the hype. Last year as a sophomore, 10.5 sacks. This kid's massive, 6'5", 270. Play all over the place on that defensive line. They're going to have him mostly at that 5-6 technique. Maybe even play all the way out to a wide 9. Either way, he's going to pin his ears back and get ready to get after this quarterback. 10.5 sacks last year. Serious ball player. They're saying first-round draft pick. Whole 9 yards. All sorts of comparisons there with him. Khalil Mack, you're hearing. He's a little bigger than him. 6'5", 270. He's nothing to play with here on the D-line coming off the edge. They also have another 5-star there on the other side of him. Elijah Rushing. You got to be a good pass rusher with the last name Rushing. This kid, redshirt freshman, 6'6", 265. Just another freak they got coming off on the edge to go along with this Ugalele kid. Man, I'm expecting these two guys to dominate the Big Ten and really make it frustrating for these quarterbacks. Not a lot of time for them to throw here with these two kids coming after the quarterback off the edge. And on the interior, they're going to be stout as well. Junior Amari Washington, 6'3", 330, another big kid. Going to see his first serious amount of playing time here this fall, the junior. But, then they got this kid highly touted, Bear Alexander, former IMG kid from Texas. He transferred out of UGA, then went to USC. Now he's here at Oregon. It is what it is, but this kid's a lot of talent, 6'3", 330 pounds as well. Hasn't had a shot to really get on the field at those first two schools. But, here at Oregon, he's going to see the field right away, and they're going to see what he's really made of because, a lot of talent there with him. Highly touted coming out, like I've already said. But, then they'll also have the two big underclassmen there to back those guys up. Tion Gray and Terrence Green. These guys are both 6'6", 6'5", 340 pounds. A lot of size up front. Again, they do have some returning guys, actually. Those kids on the edge. Big time freaks they are. Both of them are going to be probably in the draft. I'm expecting this D-line to be of the elite, up there with everybody, the Bamas and Georgias. They can play these two kids, especially those kids off the edge. And then it's always nice, at the linebacker spot when you have your team's leading tackler from last season, senior linebacker Bryce Bocher, 110 tackles last year. This kid's 6'2", 225. Former quarterback in high school. He's known to be the elite instinct type, Luke Kuechly type here, vocal leader of this defense, film room junkie type guy. 4.7 speed, not the fastest kid, only at 225 pounds, but, he makes up for it with his instincts. Knows where the ball is going to be, constantly around the ball. I like this kid a lot, Bryce Bocher here. He's going to be the leader of this defense. And then, they also got a couple of true looking linebackers here. Tatum Tuatu, 6'3", 250. Blake Purchase, 6'6", 250. Two big guys going to play that weak side linebacker spot there. Mostly going to be rushing the quarterback, in third down situations. Like I said, that weak side pressure they're going to bring there in that 4-2-5 nickel scheme. But, then they got another kid there on the inside, speed linebacker. They call him money linebacker, redshirt junior Devon Jackson. Probably the best overall athlete on this defense there, at least at the linebacker spot. 6'2", 230. He's running in a 4.5. He'll be your third down situation, pass coverage type linebacker. I like that kid a lot, Devon Jackson. Man, I think their front seven is going to be elite as well. Like I said, new faces, but again, talented. At corner, they're going to have this kid, Jaleel Florence, 6'1", 190. First two seasons, he played 11 games, then got hurt. Medical red shirt as well for this kid. NFL draft prospect, though, for him, they're expecting some big things out of him. 6'1", 195, big frame. Jalen Ramsey type build is the new prototype all these colleges are wanting at the cornerback position. Bully these wide receivers. They also welcome in this kid from Northwestern, the transfer, 5'10", 190, Teron Johnson. This kid's more of your nickel type corner, bully these slots. Real thick type kid, 5'10", 210. Expect him to play right away, transfer there from Northwestern. But the guy they're most excited about is this five-star kid they just pulled out there, Naeem Offord, 6'2", 200 pounds, like I just alluded to with the Jalen Ramsey frame, 6'2", 200. This kid's out of Birmingham, Alabama, 5-star, and they were able to steal him. That's a big-time get for Dan Lanning, to get here. Anytime you're getting kids, from the South all the way to go out all the way to Oregon, shows, the recruiting is starting to, turn it up a notch. They're starting to dominate college football here. They've already locked down the state of California. Now they're starting to steal the state of Texas and, state of Florida on all those kids down south. They're starting to get those kids as well. And, the sky's the limit if they start doing that. Another kid they'll have there at the secondary, Daylon Austin. He's more of a nickel guy as well with Taron Johnson. But, they're going to have a deep set of corners there, especially with this five-star, like I said, coming in, Naeem Offord. He's going to play right away. No doubt about it. They'll find a spot for this kid. Special player. At safeties, at the safety spot, they'll have this kid, Kingston Lopa, redshirt freshman, going to see his first action here in college football. They're really excited about this kid. They didn't know where to put him. 6'5", 210-pound kid playing safety. I'm going to repeat myself. 6'5", 210 pounds playing safety. They thought they might want to bulk him up, put him out there at outside linebacker. Maybe they want to bulk him up, put him at tight end, or let him play wide receiver. They just saw that he likes to come downhill and hit people, and so they said, we'll put him at safety. This kid's nasty, 6'5", like I've already said. They're going to let him get back there, play center field, come up, play some run support. Excited to see what this Kingston Lopa kid's all about. He was highly touted coming in. They welcome also this big-time transfer, All-American, All-Big Ten, safety from Purdue, Dylan Thieneman, 100 tackles each of his first 2 years at Purdue. This kid's legit. 6 interceptions as a freshman. Like I said, freshman All-American, all Big Ten. They're saying first or third round talent with this kid. This secondary looks deep. This defense looks deep. It's just unproven. A lot of these kids, they're going to see their first year starting. Not a lot of college action, but they have a couple players in the right spots, like I said, off the edge, a couple of nice corners, 2 elite safeties. I like this Oregon defense. And, like I said, last year, 19th in scoring defense. High expectations for this team. Outson Stadium's never an easy spot to play. It's going to be loud and rowdy there. I'm expecting Oregon to have a very, very good year this year. It's all going to depend on what Dante Moore, obviously, is going to do at the quarterback position. Last year they finished 3rd in the AP poll. Also in offense, 35.7 points per game. That put them 8th ranked nationally, an elite offense. Obviously losing Dylan Gabriel and all those other weapons on offense. Again, having to replace a lot of talent, but I think they will. First game of the year. Let's just start off with the schedule here. First game of the year, they play Montana State. That should be an easy win. Montana State lost a lot of talent as well. They were the FCS, champion runner-ups there. Did lose to North Dakota State. But Montana State, they have a program that, not to be shameful of there out of the FCS, but I think at the end of the day, Oregon's just way too much talent. I expect Montana State, maybe keep it close early, but Oregon will be too much. So you have week 1, they'll get that home opener win against Montana State. Then they welcome Oklahoma State for the second game of the year. I think Gundy's time in Stillwater, he's on a hot seat for sure. It might be done after this year. A lot of bad taste left in people's mouth after how he treated that Ollie Gordon situation, and then for them not to win any games at all this year, and him for not to even have that good of a year. Just, left a bad taste in people's mouth. And, Gundy's hasn't won that much recently at Oklahoma State. So I think that's an easy win again here for Oregon to start off the year 2-0. And then they have another easy win here. It is at Northwestern, but, again, too much talent compared to Northwestern. They've stolen a couple players as well. They have that corner, like I've already alluded to there, Teron Johnson from Northwestern is going to play here at Oregon. I expect Oregon, again, to be way too much. 3-0 here for Oregon. Then, their fourth game of the year, they get the rivalry game. Oregon State they'll play. I do expect an improvement out of Oregon State. They weren't that great last year, but still not enough talent compared to Oregon. I see Oregon rolling big time in that game. 4-0, start the year off with a big-time rivalry game win. But here's where things get difficult. The fifth game of the year at Penn State. It's never easy when you're going to play Penn State, and then especially all these guys they got coming back. Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, all 5 offensive linemen on this Penn State team are coming back. This is a team I'm going to have to definitely do a breakdown on. You've heard Rod allude to them possibly being a national championship favorite here. Definitely like the quarterback. This kid's going to be a top 5 draft pick more than likely. I think they don't get it done here. On the road at Penn State, maybe a possible whiteout. That's going to be a tough place to play. I see James Franklin drawing something up, making a tough night for Dan Lanning and these Oregon Ducks. Give me Penn State there. Give Oregon their first loss. That'll make them 4-1, heading back home to play Indiana. Obviously the Hoosiers had a big year last year, making it to the college football playoff. I thought they were very fraudulent. Obviously, you guys have heard me allude to how I hammered the Notre Dame Fighting Irish there in that game. That was a pretty obvious read from me. I think they take a step back this year and get exposed even more. I think it's Oregon all the way there. I don't even see this game being close. Give me Oregon there by at least 2-3 scores. That'll put them at 5-1 with another game here at Rutgers. Again, Rutgers lost a lot. Lost that running back, Monangai. I don't expect Rutgers to do anything to Oregon as well. I think that's an easy 6th win there, 6-1. Now they welcome Wisconsin at home. I've already alluded to Wisconsin. They're gonna hit you in the mouth. They're gonna run the ball downhill right at you, as Wisconsin's always known for. I think they could possibly give Oregon fits, but like I've already alluded to, man, this front 7 is talented. They're big. They're nasty. A lot of expectations are placed on them, and I think they're gonna meet them this year. I think they show up and rise to the occasion here against Wisconsin. I think they get that big-time win. Too much team speed at the end of the day for Oregon when it comes to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's obviously going to try to knock them around, but I think the speed is the difference. Give me Oregon there. Then they get Iowa Hawkeyes, at Iowa. That's never an easy game. Iowa's obviously known for that top 25 defense they have year in, year out, constantly putting guys in the pros, especially those defensive backs. I expect Iowa to give Oregon some fits here, but I still think, Oregon's too much on offense. Iowa's one of those teams, they got to win a game 21-14, 14-7 type game here. I think Oregon winds up getting a lead here and never looks back, 35-17 type game. I just don't think Iowa's going to be able to keep up with Oregon offensively. Even though Oregon on the road there is a tough spot, give me the Oregon Ducks to get it done here. And then, they're going to welcome these Minnesota Golden Gophers and, PJ Fleck here. I think they win that game as well. It's a pretty easy schedule like I was alluding to earlier. I think these games are all winnable. PJ Fleck doesn't have the most talented team this year for him. I do like him as a coach. I think him at a different program, he could possibly do some big, big things. I don't know. Just Minnesota might not be the spot for him. He has done some good things there. I just don't think they'll have enough talent to compete with Oregon. I think Oregon rolls there. That'll put them at 9-1 with 2 games left in the year. They got to take on USC here at home. I've already alluded to it, man. They've been dominating the state of California when it comes to recruiting. It's a shame, honestly, if you're a USC fan. Nobody that's elite goes to USC anymore out of the state of California. The Bamas, the Georgias, the Oregons of the world, or even Texas is starting to take over these kids there from California. I think USC's, just a shell of what they used to be as a program. It's a shame. No longer are they, those Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, USC Trojans that we all used to know and love. I think Oregon rolls here. You're talking 10-1 there at the end of the year. Then they play that rivalry game at Washington. Never easy to play. Definitely will have them on upset alert. I think they win that game, though, man. That's like I said. I think Oregon's going to be very talented this year, and that'll put them at 11-1. Obviously, in contention for the Big Ten title at that point. It'll be very interesting to see. Obviously, I think they lose to Penn State, so maybe 11-1. Penn State, we'll have to check their schedule out. Obviously, I'm expecting them to be around the same, 11-1, 12-1, or 11-1, 12-0. But, this is a big-time year for Dan Lanning and these Oregon Ducks. One more season with an elite-type year, and, these top 3 recruiting classes that he's been getting, keep on coming in. And you're talking about building a dynamic program here. Obviously, Oregon gets a lot of slack there. The O's on the helmet stand for zero national championships. Do they finally get over to the hump? It's a young team, a lot of talent I've already alluded to. Might not be this year. You see Dante Moore in there for the Heisman. You see some short odds there for Oregon to be in the national championship contention. I still think they're a year away. If Dan Lanning can somehow get these kids to come back to school for one more year next year, elite program this Oregon team could be. And I see them going to the college football playoff this year. I just don't see them getting a national championship. They're a year or two away. But if you're an Oregon Duck fan, it's a good time because a lot of talent. And with that coach, the sky's the limit. But yeah, man, that breaks it down here for this Oregon Ducks football team. I'm going to do some more college football breakdowns here. Took me a while to get this one done. Like I said, a lot of new faces. But we're going to break down these Penn State Nittany Lions next. Also, these Clemson Tigers. You heard Rod pick them there for his national championship pick. That was a little surprising for me. We'll see what Dabo Swinney has up there in Clemson. And, we'll break down some more teams. Also want to check out Colorado, see what Coach Prime has. But, stay tuned. Some more college football breakdowns are coming. As always, check out the website, Tony'sPicks.com. Check out our picks. Take advantage of that 2-for-1 capper promotion. And use that Tony T discount code. Get the 15% off at checkout. Let's make some money, you guys know. Peace.